Well, hello, everyone. Wow, what a day so far. I remember earlier this year when I was given the opportunity to stand in a room full of people, and I was asked about a memorable day that I would relive. And I said something very lighthearted and cliche about the day that I got engaged. And it was memorable, but it was a lie. It was. If there was one day that I could relive, it would be June 13th of 2019, and that is the day our son Hudson was born, and subsequently the day that he died as well. I remember when my wife, Lisa, and I began our conversations of starting a family and what that looked like, and it was exciting and fun and nervous and apprehensive, and we did all the steps. We went to the clinic, and we picked out our donor, and the first try, positive pregnancy. I literally said, wow, this was easy. And if I knew then what I know now, I never would have said that because nothing has been easy. And I actually call it the road less traveled. There's been 9 IUIs, 4 miscarriages, a daughter who rocks an extra chromosome, 1 round of IUI injectables, 3 rounds of IVF, a vanishing twin, a son who died, a son we got to take home, and then, if all things go right in this world, in a couple weeks, we'll be welcoming our last and final one. Thank you. When I was being interviewed for this profile, Emily asked me about a time that I recognized fearlessness in someone else. And there's been a variety of times, but I would have to say that it was when my wife, Lisa, decided to try and get pregnant. You know, getting pregnant and carrying was never something she wanted to do. It was never a her thing. It was always a me thing. But she recognized the struggles I was having, the toll it was taking, and the mental health, and all of those things. And she said, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try. And in 2016, she was pregnant with our daughter, Addi. At 3 months, we were given a prenatal Down syndrome diagnosis. And I think with any diagnosis, there's a lot to feel, right? You have to feel those feelings. You have to let go of some expectations. And you really have to make room for the journey that you're about to go on. And fear can quickly overshadow this amazing adventure. But, you know, let me tell you, if you want simple pleasures, pure delight, and days that end in joy, love someone with Down syndrome. You won't regret it. It's true. We knew we wanted multiple kids, so back to the drawing board we went. More failed attempts, switching to IVF. What do you know? I got pregnant. Twins. We quickly learned that there was a thing called vanishing twin. Had no idea, but we still had 1 healthy pregnancy. And then again, at 3 months, we were given the words that no parent wants to hear, not fit for life. Because of the complications and the severity of what was going on, we were given a terminal not fit for life diagnosis with our son. And what do you do? So there was a lot of tears, a lot of questions, a lot of second opinions, a lot of hopes for something different, a lot of medical appointments, but ultimately we just decided to celebrate him as long as we were gonna have him, that however long that may be, he would know love and adventure, and we would cherish the moments that we got to spend. You know, when I was pregnant with Hudson, I started journaling and I wrote a lot about weathering a terminal diagnosis and, you know, having to choose between comfort care, medical intervention, and I also wrote a lot about hope because to me, hope is not a tangible thing. It's a matter of the heart. And it wasn't about numbers or prognosis or outcomes or quality of life. It's just that intrinsic motivating factor that can help guide you in whatever journey you're on. It's when you're standing knee deep in this medical world and you're about to give up, but there's that spark of hope that says, we can keep doing this. We can continue to move forward. And when we were with Hudson, my hope really changed all the time. And ultimately, the hope was just to get to a live birth. I wanted to get to a live birth so we could meet our son and spend whatever time we had with him, which we did. And on June 13th, he was born, and we got to spend about 45 minutes with him, tell him that we loved him, thanked him so much for everything that he taught us, and then we said our until we meet again. I'm a runner, and while I was in the hospital, my good friend and running buddy came up and visited, and I said, hey, we have to do something. I knew from day one that I wanted to find a way to honor Hudson. I wanted to find a way to share his story. I wanted to give back to the community. I wanted to do something. I never wanted Hudson to be this thing that happened to us in our past. I never wanted him to become some distant, foggy memory of a time in our lives. And so every year we do a race and we raise money, and we purchase cuddle cots and donate them to the hospital for other families who are navigating their unimaginable moment. Because sometimes being fearless is taking life's most unimaginable moments and using them as a springboard or a catalyst for something better and for something good. Navigating child loss and wanting more children comes with all the feelings. Can we do this again? What if this happens again? We have 2 more embryos. IVF is expensive. All of the thoughts. Ultimately, we did decide to try again, and in January of 21, welcomed our son Cooper into the world, and he's been a growing weed ever since. Because sometimes being fearless is trying again when you know the outcome could be absolutely devastating. I remember the first time somebody asked me after Hudson died how many kids I had, because that question comes up quite a lot. And I was speechless. I didn't know what to say. I fumbled my words, and I said, I have a daughter. And when I was alone after that, I just started crying because it felt like I was being dishonest. It felt like I was ashamed of Hudson, and it just felt icky. And something changed in me that day, and I decided I wasn't gonna do that. So since that time and up until this day, if somebody asks me how many kids I have, I've got 2 in my home, 1 in my heart, and 1 on the way. And it's usually met with an interesting look or like, I'm so sorry. I'm not sorry, but that's our truth. And sometimes being fearless is having the courage to honor your truth, even if it makes other people feel uncomfortable. Thank you. They say when you experience trauma that you're not supposed to make big decisions, do drastic changes, or any of those things. Well, I don't know who they are, but in the few short months after Hudson died, so many things happened. My wife quit her job and started her own lawn care company. Shameless plug, if you need holiday lights, snow removal, or lawn care, she's sitting at that table. My job had been reassigned, which ultimately led to me taking a chance on myself and starting a new career path and then jumping into the world of network marketing. And then Addi had so many medical complications during that time frame that we spent more time in the ER and the hospital than most kids spend in their entire life. Trauma, life doesn't stop when trauma happens. And sometimes being fearless is finding the way to move forward when you've been broken into a million pieces and just putting that foot in front of the other. A dear friend of mine came to the hospital after Hudson died and took pictures, and they're my favorite. They're the most cherished possession that I have. And it's just really a compilation of our time in the hospital with him. And I've known her my whole life, and she goes, this is something that you're not gonna be able to patty your way through, right? And I'm like, and I knew exactly what she was saying because I know myself very well. And I knew that I was gonna have to sit with my feelings. And I knew that I was gonna have to make room in my life for grief and loss. And there's no right way to grieve. There's no one-size-fits-all recipe or handbook on how to navigate life after loss. I usually tell people, it took me a while, but I tell people that, I visit grief, and I visit grief a lot. I just don't unpack my shit and stay there. But I realize that if I don't make time for grief in my life, it has its way of rearing its ugly head at the most inopportune times and just knocking you down. It can be a song on the radio, another kiddo named Hudson. It could be a cardinal, a butterfly, a song, a memory, a smell. And all of those feelings just come rushing back. And so you have to make time for it. Hudson was supposed to start preschool this year. And so on the day that he was supposed to start, I drove up to the elementary school, and I just sat in the parking lot for a few minutes, and I let myself feel. and I named it, and I processed it, and I went about my day. Because sometimes being fearless is normalizing vulnerability and showcasing it as a strength. But I want to leave you with this. When I was asked about being fearless, obviously there's a lot I could say. But fearless doesn't have to be some mountain that you've had to climb or adversity that you have had to navigate through. Sometimes being fearless is in the everyday moments of our lives, and it's making the decision to show up every day in your life and be present. You know, strength is not determined by how many people know of your struggle, and bravery is not measured by how many people know your story. One hardship does not negate future hardship, but sometimes being fearless is embracing the magical moments between the hard, because that is what makes life the wonder that it is. Thank you.